Know me, I'm a man about the bona fides, and Beth certainly brings them. When Beth asked me to introduce her, I asked her for a story that captures the core of who she is, and she delivered. When Beth was about 1 year old in 1974, the year that women won the right to independent financial accounts, she learned to walk. Her mom wrote in her baby book that Beth walked all over the apartment, and later wrote that Beth was so friendly, she'd warm up to any stranger, so mommy must buy a pink harness so Beth doesn't wander away. Times have changed since the 1970s, and certainly parenting hacks have as well. But Beth is certainly just as friendly with new people she meets as she ever was. Moreover, she has maintained a sense of adventure as she travels across the counties. You get this: Adams, Franklin, Fulton, Bedford, Cambria, Blair, Huntington, Mifflin, Juniata, Perry, and parts of Cumberland and Somerset counties. If she's not walking in a parade, or marching with a sign, or sauntering up the sidewalk to knock on a voter's door, she's driving to the next event where she will greet and listen to people from all walks of life. And I will tell you as a sidebar, she told me today she lives 1 mile from the edge of the district. So she's going all the way every time. She's not in the middle. But then Beth's never wanted to be in the middle. But Beth isn't just a warm and engaging candidate. She brings to the table an impressive resume of determination, grit, and skill, which she needs to fight, as she puts it, for everyday Americans. As the first member of her family to graduate from college, she had put herself through by working as a pharmacy technician. She didn't just graduate, she earned a Bachelor of Arts in Biology and French with a track of secondary education. As she likes to say, she studied life from the basic beginnings to its sophisticated ends. Folks, that's exactly the kind of person we need in Congress to represent our 13th congressional district. Someone who blazes a path where none existed before, and who cares about the lives of everyday Americans. As a former credit analyst, Beth has spoken to people across the country, gained their trust to receive the details of their personal finances, and work with them on a better future, whether they were increasing access to unsecured credit or reducing their debt burden. As the cost of living increases, under the current administration, everyday Americans will be faced with mounting debt, and Beth is exactly the person they should have in their corner, legislating for higher federal minimum wages, consumer protections, and true congressional appropriations for our tax dollars. In recent years, Beth has worked at a job that, while unpaid, is probably the job more than any other job Americans have held, but definitely a labor of love, that of a stay-at-home parent. As her and Rob's children have aged, Beth has volunteered substantially, first in her church Sunday school, then as a member of the Adams County Democratic Committee, Gettysburg for Gum Sense, the Conewago Valley School District Board of Education, and Girl Scouts in the heart of Pennsylvania. As a stay-at-home parent who has time and flexibility to devote to a congressional campaign, Beth stands among interesting company. Recently, the Democratic Women's Club of Franklin County hosted a 19th Amendment tea in this very room. It was here that local historian Ann Hull delivered an impressive presentation on the suffragettes of Franklin County. Ours is a proud history of women of all colors making a difference, and they, like Beth, were often stay-at-home parents. Those brave women devoted their time and energy to lift up half the population to an equal right to vote. Because those suffragettes marred, Ben could run for Congress today. And that color pink in Beth's logo of the Capitol, it isn't just her mom's favorite color. It represents a continued fight for women's rights that Beth carries everywhere she goes. So when you see Beth, or her literature at an event, in a march, at fairs or festivals, remember, she's not fighting just to improve the lives of everyday Americans. She's living out the core of who she is, the experience and education she brings, and the continued work of those who have gone before her. So without further ado, please welcome Beth Farnham.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you all for coming out today to celebrate the launch of the Beth Farnham for Congress 2026 campaign. I am honored and privileged to run for this office of U.S. Representative for Pennsylvania's 13th Congressional District. It is not only one of the largest geographic districts in Pennsylvania, it is the most beautiful.
All right.
From Gettysburg to Johnstown, from Altoona to Shippensburg, from the Appalachian Mountains to the Susquehanna River, there is rich history, rural culture, and stunning views everywhere you look. Part of the privilege to run for this office comes from living here, but another part comes from the tremendous support that I receive from many of you, starting with my family. Every morning, when the news threatens to disorient us, it is the heartfelt conversations with my dear husband, Rob, that steady and ready me for the day. No matter what is happening at the federal level, how it affects our single-income family directly, and what the future of this country as well as that of public education looks like for our children, Laura and Daniel, I have peace because Rob and I are well aligned politically, and that includes our journey from rather bumbling Republican conservatives to the very progressive Democrats we are today. Once upon a time, Rob and I voted for Republicans, not having studied the issues nor the candidates for that matter, but assumed that local Republicans stood for lower taxes and public education, like us, until one day we stopped our assumptions cold. Even though we had a baby in 2015, the candidacy of Donald Trump landed on our radar and repulsed us both. In 2016, we finally did our research, discovered what a competent, educated, experienced candidate former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was, and proudly voted for her. We even brought the children to our polling place on that historic day. Alas, her presidency was not to be, but we kept voting for Democrats for years anyway, as the Republicans only seemed to cede more and more of their power to Trump. Until one day, I registered as a proud Democrat, and a few months later, so did Rob. After our morning chats, I then move on to the work of my campaign, and this most often involves working with the exceptional volunteers of Team Beth Farnham for Congress. Because of their commitment, I can count on Barb Fisher as treasurer, and she's been doing this for years, folks. She's been by my side, thick and thin. The school board race as well as last year's. Jack Stansberry as campaign manager. Local talent, Mary Beth Fish.
All right, Mary Beth.
And Sandy Hartzell. There you are. And Jack, and those three work as my calendar coordinators, because believe me, it takes a ton of research to be able to find and then tell Beth, here are events where you should be. Ike Lofton, Claire Meissner, and Christina Polensky as the social media team. They're doing a great job keeping my posts fresh and taking my messages across the country. Jay Inman is unfortunately not here today, but he is boots on the ground in Blair County. So, yeah.
Right, sure.
These team members don't simply fill their roles, they crush them. Their diligence and conscientiousness bring a consistency of message and presence across the 10+ counties and beyond. So together, we are Team Beth Farnham for Congress, and I could not be more proud to stand among them. But we are not the only people who support this candidacy. I thank members of the Women's Democratic Club of Franklin County for their tasty contributions here, but I also thank the Democratic committees of Blair, Cambria, Franklin, Bedford, Huntington, Juniata, Mifflin, Perry, Somerset, and Adams counties who have already given me opportunities to speak at their events this year. I have the support of all the counties, no worries there. Additionally, some grassroots groups, Indivisible Blair County, Pennsylvania Federation of Democratic Women of Blair County, and Blue Storm Action, which is in Adams County, have also welcomed me to speak this year at their marches, rallies, town hall, and meetings. And all of us number among the over 104,000 people who voted for me last November, for which I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I will not forsake your votes, but we will build upon them. For no matter how we are registered to vote, no matter our background, gender expression, race, economic status, education level, religion, we are united. We are united in grief over the erosion of our precious democracy, anger over those legislators who have the power to stop it, but won't, fear about threats to us, our loved ones, our neighbors, our jobs, our benefits, our rights over our own bodies, our right to vote, this higher cost of living, our international reputation, and our national security. We are also united in our demand to be represented by someone who is accessible, willing to not only attend your town halls, but to hold them myself, to answer your phone calls, emails, and letters, to vote in our best interests on bills in the House of Representatives that seek to strengthen our agency over our own bodies, support gun safety, defend public education, promote health care, and reform immigration, and to relate to us as everyday Americans whom I define as hardworking families or retirees on a fixed income, veterans, young adults just making their way, public school students, union members, and everyone who is not a multimillionaire. Yet most of all, we are united in our resolve to preserve our precious democracy, our self-governance, our Constitution of the United States of America. You see, while many of our neighbors have been voting for Republicans, mistaking lies for truth about what those Republicans will do for us in Congress, the ultra-wealthy, like Representative John Joyce, have been voting against our interests. Representative Joyce voted against the infrastructure bill, the American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Women's Health Protection Act. Had more members of Congress voted like him, the sorely needed infrastructure bill would not have passed. But mercifully, Democrats carried the votes, and Pennsylvania's 13th congressional district received the help it needed, like lead-free pipes in Bellwood Borough of Joyce's home county of Blair, updates to airports in Cambria County, the bridge replacement in Franklin County, and rural broadband access in Adams, Bedford, Huntington, Juniata, Mifflin, and Perry counties. Recently, Representative Joyce voted not once, but twice for the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that not only removes health care from, and these numbers are according to the Office of Governor Shapiro. He provided these statistics for every congressional district, so here are PA-13s. Removes health care from 17,273 PA-13 residents and food assistance from 6,626 PA-13 residents over the next 10 years. But with the cuts to the National Institute of Health, the NIH, loses 374 jobs and $86 million from our district over the same time frame. Those numbers come from a different source, which is also in one of my Facebook posts. Side note, please check out my Facebook. In other words, Representative Joyce does not care about us, everyday Americans. How could he? In a congressional district where over 46% of the public school students qualify for free and reduced lunches, multimillionaire John Joyce is clearly not one of us. But if he won't have the decency to resign from his disgrace, then it is up to us, the people, to vote him out and vote me in. For when I take this oath of office, I will actually abide by it, because I share a love of country with every veteran, every union member, and every activist who ever sacrificed in the name of democracy. I will stand with my right hand raised and say with all my heart, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. And I do ask for God's help, because I am firm in my faith that we should feed the hungry, heal the sick, house the unhoused, welcome the stranger, and help the poor. To stuff the pockets of the ultra-wealthy with tax savings that increase our federal deficit by $3 trillion while depriving the least among us of their food assistance, health care, housing, and all the services, is, not to put too fine a point on it, well, like trying to thread a camel through the eye of a needle. Instead, as a member of Congress, I will always check the illegal actions of a president who violates the Constitution by illegally impounding congressionally approved funds. I won't let a US president accept a $400 million jet, much less for such an important vehicle as Air Force One. That is a violation of the Emoluments Clause. Not on my watch. I will do my due diligence and vote for everyday Americans, not against us. In other words, vote for me and I'll vote for you. When our neighbors, friends, family, and co-workers who voted differently than we did in November of last year bear the consequences of those votes through job loss, lack of funding, the rising cost of living, the depressed values of our assets, the losses of health care, the rise of poverty, and the blight that accompanies it all, they will start to lift their heads and seek real solutions. And in this constitutional crisis, we must rise to meet that moment. If there's any message I ask you to please take away from today, it is simply this: amplify this campaign. Because in the midst of so much darkness, we standing together today are the light. Like the torch in the hand of the Statue of Liberty, we are on the right side of history and the right side of humanity. We believe in healthcare, food assistance, due process, humane treatment of the huddled masses, stewardship of the earth, public education, women's rights, gun safety, and so much more. When yet another cloud of fascism threatens to dim our stability, I ask you to shine for our neighbors in PA 13, because soon they will be looking where to turn, and we will light that path for them by our continued rallies, protests, town halls, door knocking, calling voters, letters to the editors, reposting social media, or donations and promotions of this campaign, donations to this campaign, and of those who also hold dear our same beliefs. When they understand whom to vote for, then they can finally understand that our U.S. representative can truly answer us, help us, and ultimately represent us. And I say this, not as someone who has lofty ideals pulled from thin air, but as someone who lived the experience as a former registered Republican, who saw the light and voted against the darkness of fascism, suppression of equality, violence, ignorance, disease, and propaganda. When they join us in choosing me, Beth Farnham, then we will all choose the best interests of PA 13 residents, the best interests of everyday Americans, and ultimately what the revolutionary founders gave to us. We too choose democracy. Thank you. All right, so I'm here to answer any questions. If there's any question you have about issues, who we're voting for in November this year. Don't forget to retain those judges.
That's right. Yep.
What committee would you want to be on?
I think Health and Human Services to start, yeah. It is, I'm sorry, I might not have the right name of the committee, but healthcare, having to do with healthcare. We can't take away healthcare, and we must promote evidence-based science. And that includes public health initiatives, because we don't want to transmit communicable diseases. We don't want to do that. That kills us.
Yes.
What else? Yes, Sherry.
So I'm wondering, you mentioned that you were trying to amplify your message across the country.
Yeah.
So how are you trying to engage others outside of our congressional district? Because in order for us to get you into office, we are going to need help from outside of our district.
So I apologize if I wasn't clear. Mostly I do mean amplify within the district. Please talk to your neighbors, your family, your friends. Now, it's true that anyone across the country can donate to my campaign. So if you have, a relative and they're like, I'd really like to support her, but I don't live there, I can't vote for her, the Beth Farnham for Congress campaign can accept those donations. When we post to social media, it has the chance to go farther than locally. Mostly on social media, we're liking and following people whom we know. But we have the opportunity there to reach across the country. So mostly though, I need amplification here, please. Yeah. So, I've got literature here. We upgraded the literature. If you know that you go to a place and there's all kinds of literature about, especially like if you see churches, religion, or political literature, then it looks like a place that's where First Amendment rights are protected and you can put out political literature. Please put mine out. Put that name out there. I'm lending my name, I'm lending my image, I'm saying words, but I'm hoping to represent us. Hey, Robin. Hi, okay. So I ask you to please, if somebody says, I don't know who to vote for, please tell them about Beth Farnham. A lot of people in our district don't even know we live in the 13th Congressional District. They don't even realize that we have this representative, but that is by design. He is hiding. He does not make himself representative of us. He doesn't give us public fora. He doesn't come to town halls. He most certainly doesn't hold them for us. He should have. But he's lost that opportunity. And he's voted so poorly for this district and for everyday Americans that he should lose his job. He does not represent us again and again. You guys don't know in Franklin County, but he has an office in Adams County. It's not in our county seat, Gettysburg. We could find him there. He picked an out-of-town office in Abbottstown. And he kind of shares the space with a state representative named Torrin Ecker. So Representative Ecker has this substantial sign. It's about 6 feet tall, it's wooden, it's white, it has a blue placard, Torrin Ecker, representative. You know that Representative Ecker has that sign. Where's John Joyce's sign? Let me tell you. It's this rickety metal thing that says in the biggest letters, John Joyce MD. So if you're driving down the road, the thing that you catch is that there's a doctor's office there or something like that. And it's right down here, right down here.
Yep.
The Torrin Ecker sign is like way up here. This sign is, boop. This guy does not want to be found. So, we need to amplify within the district. People need to understand how big the 13th congressional district is. When I run through those counties, and Bob did a nice job today as well, when I run through those counties, it is no small feat. So maybe keep this in mind. Every congressional district has an average of about 765,000 residents. So in the Philadelphia area, the congressional districts are a lot smaller because they're very population dense. But out here in the mountains, it's less dense. So we need more counties to make it. Now, it's not the biggest congressional district of our state. That's just north of us, represented by G.T. Thompson. What else you got? Yes, sir. Delmar, good to see you.
May I tell them a story about when we were going door to door?
Sure.
It was on 4th of July, and we were going door to door, and I was introducing them. I'm well known where I live. And somewhere in between, we're taking a hike up a real steep hill. I said, you told me a story previously about when you were an homme père, if I'm saying that correctly, in France, and she was with his family, and she had everyone fasten your seatbelts. It's the law. The mother of the household didn't. She said, fasten your seatbelt or I'll leave. She still didn't. She got up, took her suitcase, and walked to the nearest train station to go to another job. To me, a little thing like that told me this. When no one's around, she'll always do the right thing. No one has to be looking. No one has to be a reporter. No one has to have a hidden camera. Trust her to always do the right thing when no one else is around. To me, that's really important.
Thanks so much.
Great story. All right.
Yes, sir.
The Republicans have made great use of social media, so your social media person's really got a big job. Well, that's an important job. You're also going to be able to get newspaper and everybody else involved to get the message out, because there's a lot of older folks that don't use social media, and even some younger ones that don't want to be on Facebook, platforms like that. So those are all things you really have to get your name out there with. That, and you need a clear message. The Democrats don't have a clear message right now. They don't even have a clear leader.
Well, yes. So if you are the type of person who likes to write letters to the editor, I welcome you to write about my campaign. That is absolutely a way to reach the people who are receiving newspapers. Tell you a secret, the newspapers often don't cover what I do. And so I write these stories. If I'm gonna be writing about this event, and it'll probably just say staff writer. But I write it up, and they usually submit it because they are understaffed. Social media is important. I'm Gen X, as you know, and Gen X and older are gonna look at Facebook. but I do have Instagram and Blue Sky. And so my social media team is successfully taking those messages from Facebook and taking them to where younger eyes will be. But it's also important to connect with the institutions of higher learning. Last year, I was invited, for example, to the Juniata College forum. It was a forum for candidates, and I showed up, and Rich Irvin showed up, and the gentleman running against him, Sean Steig, who owns Juniata Brewing Company, great place, go there. He showed up as well. So we were there to answer questions during the forum. John Joyce did not show up. And the newspapers pretty much didn't cover it. You can, another way you can amplify things, you can start to ask why? Why aren't the newspapers, radios, TV stations, institutions of higher learning, and the chambers of Commerce, chambers of commerce, why aren't they sponsoring debates? Where are those? Part of what's been happening, and I found out while running, is that they're not reaching out to try to understand this campaign. They're not really platforming our representative very much. He hides from them. There's not much happening there. So it's not always uppermost in the minds of the people that we even have a representative. So if you want to use your power of writing, go ahead, ask them, hey, when are you gonna have that debate between Beth Farnham and John Joyce? I'd really like to hear that. And just keep asking them that. I'll give you a sad story. Last year, one of the chambers of commerce, one of the former members came to me and said, Beth, guess what? This particular chamber of commerce changed their rules. So they're gonna invite both candidates to a debate, and even if one doesn't show up, they're still gonna host it. And I was like, great, that's really great. I need to know when they host this, I'm definitely showing up. And they were like, great. Months went by, and there was nothing, there was no invitation. So I called up that person and I said, hey, can you tell me when they're gonna have this debate? Do they know? When are they planning this? Well, the former member called up that Chamber of Commerce and was told, oh, well, we're not gonna have a debate. We wouldn't want to, and I quote, anger the congressman. There he was hiding again. And that was kind of coordinated with the Chamber of Commerce. Some of these Chamber of Commerces hold legislative breakfasts, and I think he goes to those. But do you ever hear about it? Are you aware? Do you know? Maybe if you belong to the chamber, some people, not many. That's our legislator. That's our U.S. representative. While everything's breaking down at the federal level, this guy is hard to find. Oh yes, he had a teletown hall on information security. How many of you listened to that teletown hall? That's right. Hardly anybody knew about it. Where was his advertising? How is he reaching out to us? Again and again, I can find examples where he's not really trying to connect with us. So this teletown hall, I listened to it, and it was painful because he did bring a member of the FCC, a lawyer named Andrea, onto it, and she gave pretty solid advice. Things like, don't open an email from someone you don't know. Don't open the attachments from an email from someone you don't know. Don't open a text from someone you don't know. Don't open the attachments from text from someone you don't know. And she even said at one point, which I've been saying, freeze your credit reports. And then maybe he fielded like a couple calls where the questions were probably handed to him beforehand. But what happened was, no one asked the question that was on my mind. How can we successfully protect our information when Trump's shadow president Elon Musk and his Doge bros already raided the treasury of all of it anyway? So I'm here to say, do freeze your credit reports. You, as a former credit analyst, you don't want anyone taking your personal information and creating accounts in your name that you don't know about, and then running up the bill and then not paying it, because it will count against your credit score. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I want to say, I hope you do not, when you are elected, I hope you do not put out those terrible newsletters that Joyce puts out.
Well,
I'm about ready to unsubscribe or blocking or something, because I am so tired of giving plaques to Eagle Scouts, meeting with the local union reps. Oh, yeah, Mastriano's another one.
so I have started newsletters actually, but I hope they're not terrible. And they're coming to you from my website, BethFarnhamForCongress.com, and at the bottom is kind of a blog feature. And so about once a week, I'm just kind of doing district roundup. And if you subscribe to my website, you kind of have to scroll down, I don't want it to pop as soon as you get to my website. I don't let it pop to subscribe, and I don't let it pop to say donate now. So please scroll down a little bit, subscribe, but that means that in your inbox about once a week on Sunday evenings around 7, you will get a district roundup from me. Now, the thing that's particular, there are a couple of elements. I've looked at these newsletters. The one feature you correctly identified, it's just these select groups of people. It's always like 4 people here, 5 people there, 4 people here, 5. It's never a big group. It's never a public gathering. It's never that. Then he ends it with some horrible poll, do you love Republicans or are you a giraffe? How am I supposed to answer that? It's always this ridiculous positing of 2 terrible things. Yes, Pedro.
Actually, I get his newsletter too, and every week there's always a question in there, right?
Yeah.
Do you support blah, blah, blah? And there's 2 multiple choice answers, and then there's a text box. I always write something in the text box. And I will write something like, are you feeling more comfortable with fascism? So every week I'm putting something in there like that. How do you feel about people going hungry in the U.S.? What is your thought?
I would put vote. Please resign and vote for Beth Farnham for Congress. That's what I would put. This guy has failed. He has failed his oath again and again and again. So that's something you can use. If you want to write your comments in his newsletter, please be my guest. But I'm here today because he has not been answering you. There he is asking you these polls. How many of you just this past year, how many of you called his office? Emailed?
Yeah.
How many of you wrote letters? How many of you received a response that was an answer to the issue you raised?
Not specific.
They usually hang up on me.
It's a general form letter.
Yeah.
That's right. It's a form letter that says, hi, I'm your congressperson. Please subscribe to my newsletter. That's it. So we don't need him anymore. And our neighbors, there are a lot of neighbors, I'm not talking about trying to convert MAGA heads. We're not going to be able to do that. But there are a lot of people in the middle who were just like me and Rob. They were just not really paying attention. I kind of don't know how you cannot pay attention, but there are a lot of places where freedom of speech or talk about politics is suppressed. You might go to a fishing club or something, they're like, no politics, no politics, no politics. And so people aren't talking about the things that matter to them or the solutions that can fix the problems. That's not happening. So when you hear someone kind of start to talk about one of these issues, gosh, my coffee went from $16 for 2 pounds of Colombian coffee at Walmart brand, to $17.44 within a week. Maybe start talking about the rising cost of living and tariff by tweet being an unacceptable way to run our tariff policy. And then tell them about Beth Farnham for Congress, because all right, but there's great food here, and so please, that That stuff isn't there just to look pretty. Take literature, take stuff that you can put into the hands of people. It makes a difference. And thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.